Look at the sheer scale of the United States today. We see a nation operating aircraft carriers in multiple oceans, generating trillions of dollars in global trade, and exporting culture that reaches nearly every screen on Earth. But how did a handful of fragile, starving settlements grow into this massive union of 50 states? To understand that, we have to rewind the timeline thousands of years. Long before European maps outlined a new world, a complex network of Native American tribes managed this vast landscape, developing deeply rooted cultures and thriving trade routes. That millennia-old balance broke in the late 1400s. European explorers began crossing the Atlantic, driven by an aggressive competition for territory, raw resources, and absolute control. Their arrival shattered existing civilizations and turned the North American continent into the central battleground for competing global empires. By the 1600s, British settlers had carved out a series of footholds along the eastern seaboard. These 13 small colonies were geographically isolated, pinned between the Atlantic Ocean and a dense, unforgiving wilderness. The colonists harvested timber, grew tobacco, and built ships, generating immense profit. But they had almost zero control over that wealth. The British Crown extracted the revenue through heavy taxes to fund its own empire. Eventually, the financial pressure became intolerable. Colonists demanded a voice in Parliament. When the Crown refused, that frustration boiled over into direct action, most notably the destruction of East India Company tea in Boston Harbor. Local protests evolved into a unified political front. When the Continental Congress petitioned for the same rights as British citizens, the king declared the colonies in open rebellion, forcing a choice between total surrender or a war for independence against the world's most capable army. In 1775, colonial militias exchanged fire with British troops. A collection of poorly supplied farmers and merchants was locked in warfare against a professional army. A year later, colonial leaders severed ties completely, formally creating the United States of America. Winning the war against Britain removed royal authority, but it left a dangerous void. Without a central government to collect taxes or manage disputes, the individual states risked economic collapse and immediate infighting. To survive, they drafted the Constitution. This legal framework established a system of shared power, guaranteed specific citizen rights, and led to the election of George Washington as the first president. The new government was functioning, but the young nation remained highly vulnerable. Deep internal divisions, most notably the expanding institution of slavery, were written directly into the fabric of the country, threatening to tear the experiment apart. In 1861, those divisions violently fractured the country. The North and South engaged in a brutal civil war over the future of slavery and political control, resulting in the highest casualty count in American history. 4 years of intense fighting preserved the national borders and legally abolished slavery. The United States held together, proving its structure could withstand its most severe internal crisis. Emerging from the war, the reunited country turned its focus toward mass production. Railroads expanded across the continent, and massive urban centers built out a sudden, aggressive manufacturing base. This rapid industrialization required a massive workforce. Millions of immigrants arrived at ports along the coast, seeking steady wages and fueling the factories that were transforming the economy. We can see the velocity of this shift. This chart tracks the steep upward trajectory of U.S. industrial output between 1865 and 1900. Within a few decades, production capacity multiplied, completely outpacing European rivals. By surviving its internal collapse and aggressively mobilizing its workforce, the country transformed from an agrarian republic into a deeply unified economic engine. The turn of the 20th century forced the United States to point that industrial might outward. When it entered the grinding European trench warfare of World War I, it deployed millions of newly trained soldiers to the front lines. 2 decades later, World War II demanded an even larger response. The U.S. rapidly converted its auto plants and steel mills to produce fleets of bombers and tanks, deploying a massive military force that helped dismantle the Axis powers across multiple continents. The defeat of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan left a shattered world, and the U.S. found itself in a decades-long standoff with the Soviet Union. This Cold War was a tense global competition, measured in nuclear stockpiles and proxy conflicts. Following these victories, American industrial cremate and military bases anchored the global economy, giving Washington the singular ability to set the terms of international peace. Today, that leverage touches almost every aspect of international affairs. From its position within the UN to its control over global financial systems, American influence is a constant variable in worldwide decision-making. A raw, undeveloped coastline evolved into a dominant global titan of industry, technology, and military reach over the span of a few centuries. It is a history forged by extreme conflict, massive demographic shifts, and relentless expansion. The United States has proven its resilience, but the pressures of maintaining that power guarantee its story continues to evolve.